Thanks for tuning in to Know Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we have a special episode that deals just simply with wine sensitivities. Well, the first thing that I hear quite often is, I can't drink wine because the sulfites give me headaches. Now that's an interesting observation, and certainly I'm not a doctor, and I can't say that you specifically don't have a sulfite issue, but a large portion of the population has really no issues whatsoever with sulfites. It occurs naturally in things like wine, also in dried fruit products, nuts, etc. So what exactly might we be getting headaches from in the wine world? Well, the first thing might be overconsumption. If we have too much wine, then obviously we could get that typical hangover or a headache. But I want to focus a little bit more technically on what might be causing our headaches. And the first thing might be tannins. So if we think that we have an issue with tannins, here's one way to take the tannin test. And that will be, make yourself a cup of very dark, very strong black tea. Drink that tea and find out afterwards, are you having issues with headaches from the tea? Tea has tannins, and if indeed you have tannin sensitivities, then the tea will expose that just as easily as wine. And in that case, if you do have tannin sensitivities, we might want to stay away from red wines, possibly go to rosés or white wines. Also, sugar. Sugar can cause a fairly intense headache. If we like more sweet wines as opposed to dry wines, oftentimes that sugary wine comes with a headache. So the body has a hard time processing sugar. So having a glass of wine and a glass of water helps the body to process that sugar. And the third thing might be histamines. Wines have histamines in them. So if you notice as you're drinking the wine prior to getting a headache, if you have a little bit of a stuffy nose or a little bit of congestion, then maybe it's the histamines in the wine. It's a very simple way to test this. Say an hour before you're about to drink wine, and once again I only recommend you trying this out in the safety of your own home. Take something like a Claritin or a Benadryl. Those are histamine blockers, and those will further prove out this theory. So once the hour has passed and you decide to drink some of your wine, find out, do you have the same symptoms? Runny nose, congestion, and later a headache. If indeed that's the case, then it's the histamines in the wine that are causing that problem. The reason why I say only do an experiment like this in the safety of your home is that oftentimes those antihistamines make you a little bit drowsy. So the combination of an antihistamine and wine could certainly cause some issues. So that is, why do we get a headache and what the possible causes might be. Could be tannins, could be sugar, could be histamines, but most likely it's not sulfites. Let's move on to the next sensitivity, and that is celiac disease or sensitivity to gluten. And oftentimes I think, well, this is just fermented grape juice. There should be no issues with wheat products or anything of that nature in wine. However, ancient winemaking methods used to take oak barrels and smear the inside of the oak barrel with a wheat paste. That would help to seal the inside of the barrels. So potentially we could have an issue with celiac disease or gluten sensitivities in those type of wines. So how do we avoid that as a consumer? If indeed you have issues with wheat paste, flour, or anything along that line, it would be very nice if we could look at a wine label, much like a soup can, and say this is exactly what's in it or exactly how it's been processed. But we don't have that luxury. So I would suggest to you, if you have these sensitivities, stay away from old world wines where they're definitely doing barrel aging and probably doing it the way they've been doing it for thousands of years, and that's smearing the inside with wheat paste. Well, that's a bit of a nebulous observation. So ways that I think you can avoid it and be fairly accurate in how you do that is to go ahead and seek out an inexpensive wine. A wine barrel costs about anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300 per barrel, and that produces about 400 bottles of wine. So if you do the math, if you're buying a $10 bottle of wine, probably it has not seen the inside of an oak barrel. So that may be one way to stay away from it. Seek out a mass-produced, low-cost wine, and you probably will have no issues with gluten sensitivities. The third thing I wanted to address is vegan. So if you're a vegan, how do you ensure that the wine you're consuming doesn't break any of the vegan concerns? So once again, it's almost like gluten sensitivity. We say, well, this is fermented grape juice. Why would we have any issues with a vegan situation? Well, back, and once again, I'll kind of reflect on the old world. What's been used for centuries is animal products as fining agents. Things like egg proteins, milk proteins, fish bladder proteins. Those are actually suspended in the wine, and as they make their way through the wine, pull out the particulates. Because when grapes are crushed and wine is made, the wine itself doesn't come out crystal clear. It's quite cloudy. So it needs to be clarified, or what we call fined, to make it more clear. In those old world situations, they use a lot of natural animal-based products, which would not be vegan friendly. Some of the New World techniques use things like clay or other plastic type of filters to pull those particulates out. Now, fortunately, there is some vegan insight on wine labels, and if you turn your bottle over to the back side, sometimes you can see vegan friendly or the word vegan on there, and that will give you some idea that your wine was produced under vegan sensitivities. So, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of No Wine in No Time, and hopefully the insight that we presented here will allow you to live your life a little bit more comfortably. So that's all the time we have today. Please tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.